Alright fam, it is yet another gorgeous summer afternoon here in Utah. Just kidding. It's early March, or mid-March, and it's 82 degrees outside. Regardless, we are on our way for yet another work day out at the trailer. Today hopefully I'm going to get the Lynx distributor bus bars mounted and get a couple of cables made, and also mount the fuse holder and everything that I need for the battery system. So that's on the agenda for today. But first, we're going to Chick-fil-A because I'm hungry and it's cheap. Yum. All right, lucky for you guys, I am now well fed, so let's head out to the trailer. I won't even tell you guys how fast I ate that. All right, I just recorded like a minute and a half of video explaining what these are and forgot to hit the record button. So we'll go over it again really quickly. These are my two Lynx Power In bus bars. Now Victron makes two different versions of this. One is what these are, which is a Power In. So these are physically the same as the Lynx distributor is. However, these are not originally intended to carry fuses like the Lynx distributor is. However, with just a couple of nuts and bolts, you can modify the Power In order to carry fuses. And what Victron wants you to use the Power In for originally is to hook up their batteries to. So you would hook all the batteries up to a Power In, and then you would have their Lynx BMS, their battery management system, bolted onto one end or the other of this. And then after the BMS, you would have your loads. And so that's what the Lynx Power In is originally intended for. However, like I said, it is physically the same as the Lynx distributor. And in order to modify this to carry fuses, all you have to do is add some bolts and nuts and washers. So I'll show that to you guys. So this is what it looks like on the inside, and you can see here you bring in your positive power through the switch there is on the top, and then negative power is underneath these little splitter things, so that's the negative bus bar under there. And for the Lynx Power In, all you have to do is add these bolts right here with some nuts and washers and stuff. And then as you can see there, you just modify it to carry fuses. Now you notice I've got two of these. This one on the left here is the Lynx Power In M8 version. This is the one I originally had in the Micro Mini. You may notice I still have my switch and my shunt attached to it. And then this one is their new M10 version. The only difference is the bolts on the ends here are 8mm on this one and 10mm on this one. So that's really the only difference. And because the holes on this one are bigger, it bolts right up to the M8 version, no problem. The way I'm going to have these divvied up is the left one is going to be for power inputs and the right one is going to be for power outputs. So that's why I got the batteries coming in over here. This is where all the solar charge controllers are going to be wired up, and then I'm going to have a backup lithium charger installed on this side as well. And then over here we're going to have the two power cables for the inverter, and then some additional 12-volt loads over here. So what we're going to do today is I have to bolt up a wire to this. Before I can bolt all of this on, I have to get a wire installed because I won't be able to get to the back side of this and be able to slip this cover on the back side of the Blue Sea power switch once this whole thing is bolted to the wall. So I have to take off this cover here, and then I actually need to modify it. I'm going to have to cut out this corner right here, and then knock out these two knockouts, and then actually attach the wire there, and then I will be able to mount this whole thing to the trailer wall. And the wire that I'm going to attach to it is going to be the same one that I used in the Micro Mini. It's just this little guy, which is then going to feed the A&L fuse holder. Now ideally you would want the fuse a lot closer to where the batteries are, but just the way that this is coming together, it'll be close enough. So I'm going to attach this to the back side of the switch. I'm going to modify that switch cover a bit, and then we're going to get this whole thing mounted to the wall of the trailer. All right, the Blue Sea back cover thing, whatever you want to call it, for the Blue Sea power switch has been modified. So we're going to get the wire bolted up and get this mounted. Now if you're doing this yourself, you'll notice that the Blue Sea switch is labeled input and output, so make sure you put your battery input on the correct side. And then while I've got this open, this is 1/2 inch, I'm just gonna make sure that These are still torqued down good. Oh, except I need a wrench on that side. I think that's good enough. Should have done this one before I put the cable on, I guess. This will do. Ow! That's gonna bleed. It's not a project unless you sacrifice a little bit of blood to the project gods. All right, you're no longer bleeding everywhere. So, I think I'm going to, yeah, I can maybe bend this out of the way temporarily, yeah. So I'm looking at how I'm gonna mount this, and I may actually loosen this right here and kind of rotate this a bit. But I need to be able to mount this to the wall right there and right there with this, but it doesn't really, now that I've attached it to the Blue Sea switch, doesn't really go much, but I think I can shove that out of the way far enough and maybe cheat this over just a little bit. So yeah, let's go get this installed. Oh, my back does not like this very much. Whew. You guys can see just how much of a pain in the butt it is to get in here. It is a lot harder to get in here than the Micro Mini was. So I've got the microphone mounted on the camera now. I took my hat off so you can see crazy hair. So the question is, you guys can't see the inverter is right there. So how close to the inverter do I want to mount the Lynx? I want as much room over on this other side as possible. And I don't know if you guys can even see any of this. Yeah, I want as much room for mounting charge controllers and stuff. And I think I'm going to mount this pretty high as well. Yeah, especially since I need to have the A&L fuse holder here. Yeah, so I think I'm just going to, I brought the tape measure because I was thinking, oh, maybe I would mount it down there, but I think I'm going to mount it just as high as I can get it. And then just eyeball it. Yeah, I think that'll be good because I need more room down here for wires and stuff. So I'm just going to mount this pretty much right up to the edge of the plywood there. All right, I didn't get it quite as high as I wanted, but when you're having to hold it up with one hand and run it in with the drill on the other, that's why I'm decided to go with the self-tapping screws for this. But that'll be plenty high enough, I think. Whoa. Come on. Stop it. My shoulder hurts from... Oh. So my dad has a 2006 4Runner and his alternator went out. And so we spent 4 hours yesterday figuring out how to get the alternator out. Neither of us are mechanics. We try and do as much of our own work as we can, but I am sore from that adventure yesterday. Okay, level enough. Speed this up as I put the rest of these in. There's 4 mounting holes per Lynx. Oh, my arm hurts from yesterday. Yeah, I don't think that's going anywhere, even though these are technically not the right screws. shaking the whole trailer. So I think we're good. All right, got that all mounted up. I had to go find some different screws for the A&L fuse holder here. So I just grabbed some out of my bin of random screws, and yeah. Now I need to get out the spacers and attach the switch so it's not just free flowing. So I have some spacers and some long screws that I'll use for that, and then I also have a spacer, and then I'll use a screw on the bottom part of the shunt there. But as you can see how the wire comes out there, it hits this post, and I didn't want to have the wire coming out and around. So I had to do the same thing on the Micro Mini. I just cut off that post and mounted it this way, and that will be good enough. Fortunately, when I was taking everything out of the Micro Mini, I was slightly organized, and these are the spacers and screws for the switch, and then also the spacer and screw for the shunt. All in a handy little baggie. Oh, and this is something I'm not using. My brother helpfully put it in there. This and this other one. But these on the Micro Mini were I through bolted the heavy side of the inverter through the plywood through the wall, and then mounted it with these big fender washers and stuff on the back. But obviously, as you guys saw, I didn't do that on this one. It ended up not working out very well, and plus I can't get to the back side of this wall like I could with the Micro Mini. I could get to the back side where the water pump and stuff were. So it wasn't as big a deal for the Micro Mini, but for new trailer, I can't get to the back of the wall. So, all right, let's get these installed and check out these spacers. My buddy Evan printed these for me on his 3D printer. We took some measurements, and he only had to print these spacers twice because the first time they were slightly too short because we did a slightly wrong measurement. But yeah, he printed these nice, sturdy, thick spacers for the back side of the power switch right there. So that was super nice. Thanks, Evan. I don't know if he even watches these videos, but he gets the shout out anyway. All right, let's see if I can do this without having to crawl in this dumb pass-through again. Okay, now these are not pointy, so the last time I just rammed them into the wood until they bit. So I might actually have to crawl in here to do this again. Why? All right, let's see if this'll go. Nope. So that's not working. Gonna have to go get some pointy screws that are long enough. I don't have a drill bit long enough to go through this and into the wood. So I'm gonna have to go get new screws. And then I need to find another screw for this, because these two screws here, I was wondering what these are for. These are for the multi-plus, because I used these two on the heavy end that were through bolted to the wall, like I said. But on the closer end here, these are the screws that it came with. And I don't really want to use those just to mount. So you're not even really mounting, just to secure the shunt from moving around and bouncing and stuff. So I don't really want to use those screws. And these self-tappers that I used for the Lynx are too big. Well, they're not too big, they're not long enough to go through there and still bite enough wood. So solar cutoff box installed. Got the 100 volt 50 amp solar charge controller, and then I'm going to mount the 130 right here. However, it's currently installed on the wall over there, still keeping the lead acid battery charged up, especially since I am running the fridge in there. I bought a 2-zone thermometer, a remote thermometer thing, because I want to make sure it actually gets down to the temperature that I set. So it's taking it a while. The freezer was just about done, but the refrigerator was going to take a while to cool down. But yeah, I got solar cutoff switches here for the 2 solar charge controllers. that I'm installing right now. I am planning on probably adding a third solar charge controller later down the road, but I'll probably mount that somewhere else and then just wire it into the Lynx over there, because I do have an extra third spot for a solar charge controller. So that'll be a plan for down the road, so stay tuned for that. And then I've still got just a little bit more room over here for like a secondary 12-volt fuse block, which is what I want to install over here. I'm not going to permanent mount my Starlink under here like I thought I was going to. There's just not enough room. There's actually less wall space in this trailer than there was in the Micro Mini. So especially since I added the second Lynx power in over there. So I've got less wall space. So I've got a different plan for running the Starlink into the trailer, which will be a project for another day because it's 87 degrees out here today and I'm feeling a little toasty. Trying to decide if I want to make those cables or just hang out. I think I'm going to go just sit down and drink some liquid and hang out for a bit. Like I said, it is toasty. Here's the dual zone thermometer that I mentioned. So this has been going for, I don't know, about an hour. And it's got the freezer on the bottom down to 10.4 degrees Fahrenheit, but the refrigerator is still chilling at 61. And it's supposed to get down to 40. So it's got a ways to go, but the sun is going down and the solar panel is not bringing in too much. And I don't want to drain the lead acid battery too far, so I may continue that test another day. Maybe I'll bring the lithium battery out and let that run it for a while. I'm gonna call it. It is just too hot and I need to go get some more screws and stuff, so we're calling it for today. But before I go home, I'm gonna run by the hardware store and pick up those longer bolts I need for the Blue Sea cutoff switch. So I'll see you guys when I come back out here, probably tomorrow. All right, guys, we're back at the trailer again. It's yet another blistering spring day here in Utah. It's 87, 88 degrees again. Although there is a slight breeze going, which makes it feel not quite as warm. And we're gonna get the trailer opened up and we're gonna get started working on what we came out here to do. All right, so first thing we're gonna do is finish up what I came here to do the other day, which was attach that to the wall because I think I have some screws that will work. And then we are going to make some cables, hopefully, to run from that bus bar over to the Lynx. And then we'll see what we do after that. There's that. There's the spacers. Okay, let's try this one again, shall we? Ooh, just barely. I think it'll go through there. This might be too big for these spacers, actually. I don't know. Nope, those are not long enough. Well, maybe. I think that where that hole is just might be stripped. Yeah, so that hole up there is just stripped, but it's sort of in there. One more here. I'm trying to do this without crawling in there. That's good. I think this hole might have stripped there a little bit, but really that's just like I said, to keep this switch from rotating a ton. Let's go see what else I want to do. Okay, another thing I'm doing is I'm going to see if I can fit that little lithium battery in here alongside the flooded one, because I want to test the refrigerator, and the refrigerator was just drawing down the flooded battery quite a bit. So I'm going to toss the lithium in here. That means I am going to have to reprogram the solar charge controller really quick, but that'll give me a better test, I think, of the refrigerator. Would you look at that? It was almost like it was meant to be. All right. We are starting at a temperature of 70 degrees in the refrigerator and 66 degrees in the freezer. Next thing I'm going to do is crawl under the trailer. I already went down there once a few days ago to see where I can drill a hole in this floor for passing cables down. Like I need to run the AC wiring down into the underbelly and then also the ground cable. So I already pulled down the underbelly covering But I need to figure out where these wires for this switch are going and coming from. See if I can see what they're doing, because I still have no idea what this switch is doing. All right, crawled under there, and it's not really possible to see. See where there's a black wire either going or coming from where that cutoff switch is. But I don't know where the second wire on the back side of that switch is going. Like I said, everything in the trailer seems to be powered regardless of which position that switch is in. So I'm going to have to call either the dealer's warranty people or reach out to the trailer manufacturer to see what that switch is supposed to be doing. Right, just open these. This is some copper 1/0 5/16 lug ends, whatever you want to call these. So I think these are the right size that I need for the multi-plus, but I'm gonna go check. Oh, I forgot. I need to move stuff out of the way. Hang on over there, guys, while I move stuff out of the way in the pass-through here. It's also slightly breezy over here. Perfect. What about it's also what I need for the Lynx. Huzzah for making everything standard size. What did I had a thought in my tiny little brain that came to me, and now I can't remember what it is while I was over there. Oh, right. I'm missing a lock washer and a nut. I think I've got a note in my phone called task list. Otherwise I forget things. Check for multi-plus lock, washer, and nut for a second cable. I think those might be back at my parents' house. I have a bin that's still got a lot of the wiring and stuff in it from the Micro Mini that I haven't sorted through yet. So I think that the extra lock washer and nut that I need for the multi-plus for its second power input stud might be in that bin. If not, I've got copper lock washers, but I'll just have to go pick up a couple of stainless steel nuts that'll work for that. So we'll check on that when I get home. In the meantime, I am going to take some of this 1/0 cable here and go see how long of a run I need. All right, so we're going to be running, you guys can see, yep, we're going to be running from these two connections on this Lynx just down and straight over into the studs here on the multi-plus. The top side is for positive and the bottom side is for negative. So I need, there's going to be 4 cables total running in here. So it's going to be a little crowded, but I don't want to try and make that bend with 4/0 cable because it's not really, doesn't really play nice with sharp bends like that. And like I said, I was having some weird like draw issues using the 4/0 on the Micro Mini. So I'm liking the idea of going with 2 1/0 cables instead. So let's see how long I need this to be. So we're gonna just shove this in here, about that long, and we'll make it a little longer. So I'm gonna shove that all the way up there. I'm gonna make sure I come all the way to there. Yeah, think about that long. So let's go cut it, and then I'll see if I made it the right size. Good thing we got plenty. All right, so we need about that long-ish. So I might be able to cut this with my regular wire cutters. These guys, if you remember these from the previous video, I could probably cut this with this. We'll give it a try on this first cable. And then, but really, probably what I'll end up using is this giant cable cutter here that I bought from Harbor Freight. Oh yeah, slammed the knuckles good on that one. So it did cut it, but I think for the next cable runs, I'm going to use the big one because I don't like slamming my knuckles into my truck. All right, back under here. Let's see if we made this the right length. Oh yeah, that's gonna be probably too much length there actually. So what I'm gonna do is put a lug on one end of this and then attach it to probably the Lynx and then size it to go to either this top or this bottom stud here on the Multiplus. And then I'll do the same thing for the second cable. And then we'll do the negatives. All right, got the cable end stripped using the same method that I used that you saw in the other video. Just using this to gently cut through the insulation. But I realized that I didn't show you guys this bigger lever crimper in the other video. So this thing's really nice. It was expensive, but it's really nice for doing these larger gauge cables. So basically, in order to crimp whatever size cable you're doing, there's little like marks right here, and then you just adjust this part using this knob up here to whatever gauge cable you're using. So I've got it set to the 1/0 size, even though it doesn't look like it from this angle. And then you just set the lug in there and make sure you got it straight up and down, or yeah, it's straight up and down because you crimp it from the bottom. And then what you want to do is, based on how you want these thicker gauge wires to go, based on their twist and where they're going, then you're going to want to make sure you crimp it with the wire like twisted and facing the way that you want it to go. So this one's going to go into the Multiplus. Oops, sorry. And no, this one's going to go on the Lynx. So I want it to twist this way. So it's going to come south from the Lynx and then curve around into the Multiplus. So I'm going to crimp it this way. Just giving this copper here a good twist. Slides right in, and I want it to twist like this. So then all I have to do is make sure that's in there, facing with the wire facing the direction that I want, and then just crimp it like that. Give it the old tug test. You can see there that the crimper leaves an indentation in there, and what that does is when it crimps onto the stranded cable, it does a cold weld, and it's pretty much just welded in there. You don't want to use solder, you don't want to do anything, like you just want to crimp it just like this, and that will be more than sufficient. That's on there pretty good. So I'm gonna go take this over and make sure it looks good for the Multiplus. I'm actually gonna take this off of the Lynx because I want to slide the cable right on to where it's supposed to go, the way it's supposed to go. So I gotta get the washer off of here. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna need to cut some of this wire because it is a little too long. I think I'm gonna cut 1 inch off of it. So I'm gonna do that, and I'll be right back. All right, I got 1 inch cut off. Needs more. All right, let's see if that is good. Oh, I made this cable way too long. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to, maybe I could use this for the second one. Hold on. I don't want to keep trimming this one down and wasting expensive copper if I don't have to. The second one is going to have to travel a little further. Okay, that's a little too short for the second one, unfortunately, so I'm just going to go trim off a little bit more. Note to self, if the close one is too long, check the further away one before you start cutting the expensive copper off the end of your cable. All right, is third time the charm. Yes, I think the third time might be the charm, guys. Because you got to remember, there's going to be a lug on the end of this, so I am going to go put the lug on the end of this and see if it fits good. So I'll be right back. All right, a little bit of problems with this one, but it should be fine. The cut and crimp wasn't quite as clean as I would have liked. Okay, now that'll be That'll be perfect. Sweet. So now I need to make a longer one for the other stud. All right. The second one came up a skosh short, I think, but it'll be good enough. So now I'm going to do the same thing for the 2 negative cables. And then I will heat shrink them all at the same time. All right, guys, this is more or less what it's going to look like. I think I'm going to have to remake this cable right here because it's a little too short. Or this one's a little too long. Let me make sure that I didn't get them mixed up, actually. I think I might have gotten them mixed up. Let's try that. And we will try this. Yeah, I made one of these cables a little too short. So, because the thing is, you got these dividers, but then you've also got the lid of the multiplus to go on here. So let's pop these guys back on. Their correct orientation. Yep, I'm gonna have to make a new cable. Ugh. Lame. All right, one replacement cable later, and those line up a lot better. So I am gonna use some cable ties and some stuff to mount it to kind of hold these, take the strain. But those are pretty good. So I'm gonna put some heat shrink on these, and then I think we're gonna call it a day. All right, guys, it's a little while later. I had to drive back into town to see a man about a horse. And I'm back out at the trailer to finish installing the cables. And I also went and checked on the refrigerator, and it is fully cooled down now. So I don't know what time or how long it took. But here is the temperature sensors. So it is 47.8 in the refrigerator, so it's not quite cooled down yet. It's supposed to get down to around 40. And then the freezer still has a few degrees to go, but it's getting there. However, the sun is pretty much gone. Even if it comes out behind the cloud that it's behind right now, it's not going to be pulling any wattage really, because it's getting ready to go down. So I'm actually going to leave the fridge running and leave the lithium battery attached and come back tomorrow and see what the battery percentage is at around this time tomorrow. We'll see if the solar panel, that 200 watt panel, is able to recharge the battery tomorrow after the fridge runs all night. It'll be a fun test. So anyway, after running into town to see the man about a horse, we gotta dig out all the tools again and then get the wires all installed. You can see before I left, I did get shrink wrap. I did get the heat shrink on all the cables. So gonna bust out the car toolkit so I can get a socket and get these installed, at least as much as I can. I actually need to go to Ace Hardware and get a couple of nuts, and then when I go home I have to grab a couple more copper lock washers. So, but we'll get them installed as best I can without those parts. Don't have any fingernails, makes it more difficult. Stuff in my pockets, making it hard to lean up against the trailer here. Oh no! Come back. Okay, I think that's a closer one. Alright, so we go lug, washer, lock washer, oops, and then nut. These are 10 millimeters. And there is a torque spec for these, but I don't know what it is, and I don't have a torque wrench. So a good arm ugga dugga seems good to me. So we go lug, washer, lock washer, nut. Ow, that has a pointy part. That nut has a little bit of a pointy, ouchy part. I might want to torque those, so don't know if I'm going to install the positives. I'll come back with my torque wrench, because we probably should do it properly, right? Yeah, I'll come back tomorrow with my torque wrench and with the washers and nuts that I need for the 2 additional studs here on the Multiplus. So I think I'm going to call it on the trailer for today. We will see you guys tomorrow. No going back now, guys.